Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to this channel and share it with anyone who cares about real history and real survival knowledge. Because what we're about to cover is not theory, not armchair speculation, and not recycled advice. This is hard-earned experience pulled from some of the coldest, most unforgiving conditions human beings have ever endured. If you value serious historical analysis and practical survival lessons, this channel is built for you. What most people misunderstand about World War II prisoner of war survival is that cold killed as effectively as bullets. For Allied POWs held in German camps during brutal European winters, and for Axis and Allied prisoners alike in the frozen expanses of the Soviet Union, cold was not an occasional hardship. It was a daily grinding threat that stripped strength, morale, and life itself. Camps such as Stalag Luft III or the vast Soviet Gulag system forced prisoners to learn, often within days, how to survive freezing temperatures with almost nothing. The lessons they learned under captivity are disturbingly relevant to modern urban survival, where power outages, infrastructure collapse, or displacement can expose civilians to cold with little warning. The first lesson POWs learned was that heat is not comfort, it is survival capital. Prisoners quickly realized that calories were currency. In freezing conditions, every movement burned precious energy, and hunger magnified the cold. POW diaries repeatedly note that men who stopped eating or rationed food poorly declined rapidly. Modern urban survivalists can apply this directly. In a winter blackout or fuel shortage, you do not skip meals to save food unless starvation is imminent. You prioritize warm, calorie-dense intake to maintain body heat. World War II prisoners would trade almost anything for fats or carbohydrates because those foods fueled internal heat. Today, that means understanding which pantry items provide maximum thermal payoff, such as oils, grains, and sugars, and consuming them strategically during cold exposure. Another critical lesson came from improvised insulation. Prisoners of war stripped down buildings, bedding, and even cardboard packaging to block drafts and create dead air space. They learned, often the hard way, that wind kills faster than cold itself. In camps across Eastern Europe, prisoners stuffed clothing with paper, rags, or straw, not for comfort, but to slow heat loss. This translates directly to urban survival scenarios, you know. If you lose heating in an apartment, you seal one room, block windows with layered materials, and reduce airflow. POWs survived not because they had warm shelters, but because they controlled exposure. The principle is, well, identical whether you are in a barracks in 1944 or a high-rise in 2025. Cold weather endurance also depended heavily on routine and movement discipline. POWs learned that complete stillness led to numbness, stiffness, and eventually hypothermia, yet excessive movement burned calories too quickly. Survivors described small controlled exercises done regularly, even in cramped conditions, to keep circulation active without exhaustion. For modern survivalists, this means planned micro-movements during cold confinement. You do not pace endlessly, and you do not lie still for hours. Instead, you schedule short bursts of movement to maintain circulation while conserving energy. A balance that POWs learned the hard way. Mental resilience was another decisive factor. Cold erodes morale silently, and prisoners of war who surrendered mentally often followed physically. Diaries from German and Soviet camps show that men who maintained routine, purpose and social bonds resisted cold better than those who isolated themselves. This was not sentimental thinking, it was physiological. Depression reduced appetite, movement and awareness, all of which accelerated cold injury. In modern urban crises, isolation during cold events is equally dangerous. Maintaining communication, shared routines and mutual responsibility within households or neighbourhoods mirrors the survival networks prisoners of war created behind wire. One of the harshest lessons involved moisture management. Prisoners of war quickly learned that sweat was lethal. Wet clothing froze, and frozen clothing stole heat faster than bare skin. Men learned to vent heat before sweating, to dry garments obsessively, and to avoid snow contact whenever possible. Urban survivalists often overlook this. Overdressing indoors, shoveling snow without ventilation, or sleeping in damp clothing during outages replicates the same deadly cycle prisoners of war faced. The solution remains unchanged: stay dry first, warm second. The final and perhaps most sobering lesson is adaptability under constraint. Prisoners of war did not survive because they had ideal gear or perfect plans. They survived because they adapted constantly. When fuel disappeared, they changed routines. When clothing failed, they repurposed materials. When food vanished, they adjusted movement and expectations. This mindset is the true inheritance of World War II cold weather survival. Modern urban survivalists who fixate on equipment but ignore adaptability miss the core lesson written in frostbite scars and burial records. World War II prisoner of war cold weather endurance was not heroic myth. It was daily decision-making under pressure, guided by physics, biology and human will. If you want to survive cold in any era, you study those who had no margin for error and learned anyway. If this kind of deep, practical history matters to you, subscribe to the channel, share this video with serious learners, and help keep these lessons alive where they still matter.